Hey everybody, welcome to Cut, Transform, Glue. In this week's video, I've set myself the challenge of creating a rocket launcher for the Reaper robot without using any 3D printed or laser cut part. Yeah, that's right. It's been a while since I started using my 3D printer and the laser cut pieces. So for this one, I decided to challenge myself and see what I was able to come up with. Now, without any further ado, let's get on to the build. So as I just said, I decided to use the Reaper robot as the base for this project. Now I won't be replacing the power drill from it, don't worry. I just want to use the Reaper robot as the overall guide to the size of this rocket launcher. So I'll begin this project by removing the power drill from its hands, and I'll go from there. Okay, so now that I have the power drill in my hands, I can start sketching the rocket launcher, kind of following its dimensions. I want to keep the handle at the same point because I don't want to change the pose of the Reaper robot. I want to keep it as it is. So as long as I have the handle at the same place, and up there in the front I can keep some structure so that the Reaper robot can kind of hold the weapon on his hands, I'm good. So yeah, this is the idea, to come up with the rocket launcher kind of following the handles of the power drill. Also, I just want to mention right here that this is not a blueprint, as I'm going to make this as a junk bash project. This is just to give myself the overall size of the thing. So this is not like a blueprint of the project. This is just an overall guide. And as you guys just saw in the tip right there, I want to keep this rocket launcher kind of old school. I want to use the old RPG missiles heads that we see on the internet. Of course, I will come up with something crazy for the body as I move on to the project, but for the head of the missile, I want to keep it as the old RPGs. So now that I have this sketch and the overall size of the RPG in my hands, I can start looking in my collection of bits and pieces. And also I wanted to show you guys how I keep things organized. So the box you just saw are the medium-sized pieces. This box right here, I call it the rings, but it's more like the circular pieces, my circular pieces collections. And I also have a third box. Actually, that's more than three, but this third one, I call it tubes. And I keep the tubular shapes in there. Other than those three boxes that you just saw, I have some for laser cut pieces and some for some 3D printed gribbles. Now I won't be using them in this project, so I'll keep it with these three right here. And I'll begin by choosing the pieces for the missile head. As you just saw, I have this white cone piece right there. I've been saving it for a long time, and I want to use that as the tip of the missile. I'll also use these transparent pieces right here. Those came from some soap pumps. Yeah, I want to grab the pieces to create the missile head first. Now this white cone is kind of the lid of a hand cream or something like that, and as you just saw, it opens and closes, so I gotta glue it together. And also I have to give it some sanding so I can better glue it with seal glue to the transparent soap pump piece. Now that these two pieces are glued together, I'll close the tip of the hand cream lid with some seal glue, and then I have to give this whole tip a good sanding because it actually has some deformations in the plastic. So yeah, I had to really sand it and make it smooth. I even tried using my Pro drill as kind of a lathe to give this tip the perfect shape. And now that I have those two pieces glued and sanded in a nice shape, I can move on to the back of the missile head. Okay, so I already have an example of the usage of the 3D printer right here. I would probably 3D print an interesting piece to go right here in the back of the white piece right there, but I won't do that. Instead, I glued this plastic piece right here, and now I gotta cover this hole right here with some epoxy putty. So right here, I'm just trying to cover the hole left by that piece right there, and I'm also trying to create a nice angle right here so that I can add some details later in the process. Then I found this white piece right here, and I think it looks super interesting, and I want to use it to attach the missile head onto the RPG. So first I have to make this hole bigger. So with my caliper, I figured out this is 8mm, so I grabbed my 8mm drill bit, and now I just make the hole just a little bit wider. And I'm being super careful in the drilling because I don't want to put a hole through my hand. Now the missile head fits perfectly onto the white piece right there, and I also gave the whole missile head and the epoxy putty as some sanding, so this is perfectly smooth, and I can move on to work on the body of the RPG. I found this yellow piece right here. I feel this looks super interesting, and I can perfectly fit just the tip of the white piece right in there. So this is what I did next. I've glued those two pieces together with some CA glue. And I also decided to use this gray piece right here to kind of cover the hole right there on the top of the white piece. I want to put that right in there and cover that hole and start working towards the back of the body. Now let me just take a moment right here to thank my Patreon and my Ko-fi supporters. This channel is only possible with the support of those amazing people, so thank you guys so much for that, for all the support and the help you guys give me. Here are the benefits that I have prepared for my patrons, so if you guys are interested on joining them and helping the channel, help me keep going, check the links on the description box. Now back to the video. And then I decided to remove the whole back of that yellow piece and the gray piece as well. So I used the cutting disc in my Dremel tool, and I've cut the entire back of that piece right there. Now, as you guys can see, I'm using the Dremel tool in a low rotation. I don't want to lose control of that cutting disc because that can be dangerous. But yeah, I've cut that, and now I have just this piece right here, and I'm happy with it. Now I found this white piece right here. I feel like this looks interesting, so I'm gonna glue this yellow piece right here. This is also another example of the difference of working with just junk bashing or 3D printed parts. Those two pieces, they don't fit perfectly together. They don't have the same shape, the same profile, so they don't fit perfectly together. And this is something that adds some randomness to the projects. This is what's different in between the techniques. This is also another part of a soap pump, and I'm going to use this to glue right in the back of that previous piece right there, because the diameter of the circles are close, so I'm going to just use it. Now again, as I just said before, those pieces don't have the same profile, the same shape, so it adds some randomness to the junk bashing. I have this gap right there in between the white and the yellow piece, and I have to take care of that later on the process. After I did that, I grabbed this white round plastic thing right here, and I glue it to the back of the white piece right there, and then I just threw a quick coat of primer onto the whole thing to be able to see where I was going, how it was looking, to better see the project as it is so far. And I gotta say, despite the fact that this is kind of random, I like how it is so far. And now I can start working towards the right hand of the robot, and then I can create the handle for this rocket launcher. So this is what I would do next. Now there's a box that I didn't show you guys on the beginning of the video, and it is this one right here. I call this one the asymmetrical box, and inside of it obviously there are some asymmetrical pieces. These are the hardest parts to combine in the projects, but I'm going to try to use that on the RPG. So I chose this one right here, and I gave it some sanding on my mini disc sander, and I'm going to glue this right in the back of the previous build structure that you just saw. So I gave it some sanding and some shaping, and now I'm going to glue this right here. But before I do that, I have to find the middle of this piece, so I'm throwing some lines with my Sharpie and a metal ruler. So now that I've found the middle of that piece, I'll glue them together with some Sea glue, and I'll do my best to keep those two pieces centered and aligned. Back into my tubes box, my tubular Gribbly's box, I found this black piece right here, and it fits perfectly on the middle of that white piece right there, so I'm just going to glue them two together. I've also found this one right here, this green piece. It looks nice, so I just gotta give this some shaping, some sanding, and then I'll glue that green piece to the bottom of the white one right there. And once I had the green piece on the right shape, it fits perfectly right here, as you guys can see, and I'm going to use the low viscosity CA glue to keep those two pieces together. Up here in the top, I have this hose to take care of, so I'll glue this keyboard key right here just to cover that hole. And also I found this piece right here which fits perfectly onto the front structure, so I also glued that right there. Now I can finally start working on the handle for this rocket launcher. So I'll begin by sketching the lines on a piece of paper, as you guys can see, with my Sharpie. And now I know that this is the perfect size, the perfect handle that I need to make for this rocket launcher. So I've cut it, as you guys can see, with my X-Acto knife, and then I glued it to the back of the rocket launcher with some double-sided tape. Now I can finally test it against the hands of the robot. You see if it fits perfectly my model. And it fits kind of perfectly. So I'm going to create this handle out of some strips of styrene. So I stacked 3mm sheets of styrene together. I've glued them together with some Sea glue, and then I glued my drawing onto the top of it with some double-sided tape. And being as careful as I could, I've used my Dremel tool with the cutting blade to remove most of the material, most of those three stacked styrene strips. I wasn't going to be able to reach the insides of those lines with my cutting blade. Also, that would be kind of dangerous. So I finished the shape with my mini disc sander, and I also did some hand sanding onto this piece. And then I just glued it to the back of the rocket launcher with some CA glue, as you guys can see, and it fits perfectly right there. And I can move on to the other parts of the RPG. I want to add some details, some interesting gribblies to it. Now, I know some of you guys remember the first version of the power drill of the repair robot. This is an older video of the channel, and that one also had a handle right here, as this rocket launcher has. As some of you guys may have noticed, I didn't include an exhaustion gap right here in the back for the missile, and I'm thinking about adding one right here in the side of the rocket launcher. This is different from a classic RPG, but this is kind of my version, so I'll just go with it. So I found these two pieces right here. I feel like they fit perfectly onto the side of the rocket launcher, but I have to remove some material from right here to be able to fit those two pieces together perfectly. So this is what I did next. I've marked what I needed to remove with my Sharpie, and then I'm going to use these woodworking tools right here to remove some of the plastic from those pieces. Once I had most of the plastic removed from those pieces, I used my sanding sticks to kind of reach the final shape that I needed for this piece, and then I just have to glue those right there on the side using the CA glue. And this is also something that's quite different from the usage of laser cut pieces or the 3D printer. As I'm only using the junk bashing pieces, I have to be constantly shaping them so that they can fit perfectly together, and that makes the process kind of harder. But there's also some happy accidents. So as you guys can see right here, those pieces fit perfectly together as they are, and I'm going to glue those two together to create the exhaustion system for this rocket launcher. So yeah, now I think I'm done adding some structures to the rocket launcher, and I'll just give it a final detail pass. So this is also another box of gribblies that I have, and I call this one surface details. And in this one I just have the thin pieces. They kind of just add some bumps and surface detail to the models, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to glue those pieces onto the top of the rocket launcher to make it look interesting, to give it a sense of scale, and yeah, make the model look good. So recently I found this thing right here online. Those are called sequins, and this one, if you look closer to it, they are actually some 1mm diameter tiny discs. So I decided to try that. I bought them, and I'm going to glue them to the surface of the rocket launcher. But to be perfectly honest with you guys, I'm not sure those are going to work. I feel like the primer can easily cover them, but I gotta try that. Those were super cheap online, so I had to try them, and this is how I glued them to the surface. I grabbed my woodworking tool, really sharp, and I've poked them, and then I just touched the CA glue with it, and I put on the surface of the rocket launcher where I felt it made sense. One last detail pass that I have to make on this project is on the missile head. So right here in the back on the epoxy putty part, I want to add some texture, some interesting shapes to it. So I grabbed my Sharpie and I've marked where I needed to put some details. Then I grabbed my Dremel tool with a spherical drill bit. I don't know how to call it, but yeah, I've grabbed my Dremel tool and I made some spherical indentations on the surface. Okay, so now this is done and ready, but just a final touch that I have to make on this one. I have to make an acrylic wash on this one to make the details pop, to make the surface details to come up. So yeah, I grabbed some black acrylic paint and I made this really thin, and then I grabbed a brush and I started adding some lines, some streaks of black wash onto the surface of the model. Now I know this might not make much sense to wash a piece that's only on primer, but I'm not going to paint this one, so the wash is just to make the details pop. I won't paint this one, I want to keep it on primer, so this is why I chose to do that. And now this project is done. The rocket launcher is complete and it fits perfectly onto the hands of the repair robot. When I'm creating my models, I have one goal in mind, and it is to make the most good looking and interesting thing that I can, and for that I use everything I have in my disposal, be it a 3D printer, a laser cutter, or maybe a snap knife. But from time to time it is interesting to impose yourself some limitations and to set yourself some strict rules, because that can make you a better artist in my opinion. And this is what I did in this project. I've set myself some strict rules and I got rid of the usage of the 3D printer just for this project, and I think that the end result is super interesting. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not going to get rid of my 3D printer, I love that, and to be honest this project made me love it even more. But this project goes to show you guys that you don't need any fancy stuff to create some cool looking things, so please go grab some junk pieces and bash them together. This is super fun and this is the heart of this hobby. Hit the like button if you liked this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, thanks for watching.